Hi, welcome back to Explanation Pro. Today we will recap an awesome movie called Where the Crawdads Sing. Spoiler ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie begins with two boys riding bicycles. It's set on October 1969, in North Carolina. One of the boys notices something off nearby a lake. He stops the bike, and when he approaches the shore, he discovers the body of a man. Naturally, the boys call the authorities. The sheriff and the deputy make it to the woods and find the corpse thanks to the boys' instructions. The sheriff soon realizes the body is from Chase Andrews, a popular football player. The two officers climb a nearby tower to find any hints. Indeed, they end up making it to the tower's highest point, and find a missing grid, right above Andrews' corpse. It seems that Andrews' death was an accident, but the sheriff isn't fully convinced. The autopsy reveals that the football player's death was because of a sudden, fatal impact, which logically fits the accident's theory. However, the sheriff still believes there's more to it than a mere tragedy. The doctor says that Andrews' jacket had red fibers on it, so now the sheriff has something to look for. When having a drink at a bar, the police officers hear the client's conversations regarding Chase Andrews' death. The customers believe that the Marsh girl could be the one behind the player's death. The Marsh girl's name is Catherine Kia Clark. With that information, the officers consider paying a visit to this so-called Marsh girl. Unfortunately, once the men make it to Catherine's home, they find no one there to talk to. However, the deputy glances at a piece of cloth inside the house. This cloth is a red cap, which fits the pieces of red fiber found on the player's jacket. To make it more suspicious for the audience, we find Catherine hiding from the cops behind a tree. Is she really Andrews' killer? Meanwhile, the authorities search the swamps to find something that may serve their investigation. Believe it or not, they end up sighting Catherine, who's trying to escape her fate on a boat. She ends up making it to the shore and running through the forest. Her last attempt at escaping is swimming in the brown waters of the lake. Nonetheless, Catherine ends up caught by the authorities and is later sent to jail. Once Catherine is in her prison, she's met by lawyer Tom Milton. Tom Milton wants to take Catherine's case and defend her. Milton insists on Catherine providing more details regarding the event. That way, Milton's job will be easier. Catherine hesitates at first but ends up speaking up. Catherine tells her story, and the movie switches back in time. It's 1953, and we find a younger Catherine living with her mother, her sisters, and her father. Sadly, Catherine's father was quite violent and made the house feel like four walls and a roof, rather than a home. One night, Catherine's father hits the child's mother. This domestic violence incident forced the mother to abandon the family. Catherine goes after her, but it's too late, the mother is gone. One by one, every member of the family leaves the house, except for Catherine and her father. Catherine's brother encourages the girl to run away as well, or as he said, to go where the crawdads sing. Catherine decides to stay, but the brother insists she goes there in case she's caught up in a problem. Now, just Catherine and her father live under the same roof. Eventually, Catherine meets a boy of her age called Tate Walker. The two end up being close friends. One day, when Catherine is attending school, she pops into Tom Milton, the lawyer that offered his services some moments ago, when Catherine was in jail. Catherine's life continues. She leaves school after finding out that every student made fun of her, and just spends the rest of the days fishing with her father. Oddly enough, the father behaves properly with her daughter. One day, Catherine is over the moon after receiving a letter from her mother. Sadly, her father burns it after reading it, then states that the mother is not coming back anymore. That event seems to thoroughly affect the father, who ends up abandoning Catherine as well. The young Catherine gets by, collecting mussels and selling them to the stores. In addition, the woman that attends the grocery shop ends up teaching the child, as if she was a private tutor. The woman's name is Mabel. Back to the present, with an adult Catherine in jail. Catherine receives clothes from Mabel, the woman who raised her. Those clothes are worn in Catherine's first trial. The lawyer encourages Catherine to talk about the football player's case. He wants her to explain that she and Chase Andrew had an argument, and after that, Andrew stepped on the wrong grid and fell to the ground. On top of that, Tom Milton says Catherine could be released in 6 years out of 10. The main problem is that Catherine doesn't want to confess anything. She just wants to get away from prison as fast as she can. Milton explains that, if Catherine doesn't confess, she could get life imprisonment. During Catherine's trial, her lawyer and Andrews' lawyer get into a heated argument to defend their clients. However, while this happens, we get into one of Catherine's memories. Now it's 1963. We find an adolescent Catherine meeting her childhood friend. The friends help Catherine read and write letters since she is illiterate. The more time passes by, the more Catherine learns thanks to her friends' help. One day, someone from social services arrives at the grocery store, the one where Mabel and her husband work at. The man from social services says he's looking for Catherine, claiming that he knows there's a girl living in the swamp on her own. As soon as Catherine discovers there's one man looking for her, so, with the help of her friend Tate, she decides to hide even deeper in the marshes. Eventually, Catherine and Tate end up dating one another. Sadly for both, Tate confesses he will be leaving her soon. He's going to college within a week, so he won't be able to see Catherine anymore. However, before leaving, Ted gives Catherine a list of publishers. That way, Catherine will be able to send writings and drawings. Ted believes Catherine has lots of potential and talent to become an artist, so he pushes her to do that. After that, Tate leaves Catherine, who spends the rest of her days on her own, missing her lover and her family. Catherine also paints, draws, and writes. One day, on July 4th, Catherine tries a beautiful dress and expects her lover to come back. This is because Tate promised he would come back on that date. Needless to say, Nate didn't keep his promise and ends up breaking Catherine's heart. Now it's back to the present, during Catherine's trial. There, lawyer Tom Milton defends Catherine, and provides a set of papers regarding the instability of the tower from where Andrews fell. Now again, back to the past. It's 1968, and we find Catherine writing and chilling out on the beach. There, she glances at Chase Andrew, who is playing with his friends. The two seem to like each other instantly. That day, when Catherine is returning home, she discovers an unknown man taking pictures of her home. Naturally, Catherine hides between the bushes and waits for the man to leave. Right after that event, the woman heads to the grocery shop to tell the news to Mabel and her husband. They tell her that the land is being acquired by businessmen to build hotels. After that, Catherine pops into Chase, who was waiting for her outside. Chase invites Catherine to go out on a date, and Catherine thinks it's a good idea. On the other hand, besides Catherine enjoying her time with Chase, the girl is still struggling with her house property. So, she takes her deed to an officer to corroborate the house actually belongs to her. The man tells Catherine that, indeed, the house belongs to her. Nonetheless, she must pay $800 in taxes if she wants the building to be 100% of her property. So, Catherine takes out Tate notes where all the publishers are listed. Catherine begins to send her creations to everyone in the hopes of being paid because of them. Eventually, Catherine receives a response. There's a publisher willing to publish her works. Catherine cannot believe it. She tells Chase about it, who shares her happiness. Moreover, Chase proposes to Catherine to get married. Catherine accepts, but the trouble was around the corner. One day, Tate makes it back to the marshes, expecting to meet Catherine. Unfortunately, he gets mad once he finds Catherine is dating another man. It doesn't take too much time to get Tate and Chase into a heated argument. The two even are about to get into a fistfight, but some people interfere and stop the fight. After that, Tate tries to apologize to Catherine to no avail. But things get worse when Catherine realizes Chase is dating another woman. Not only that, but she also finds out Chase has proposed marriage to the other woman. Poor Catherine cannot believe her reality. Luckily for her, she ends up having her book published and earning money because of it. She utilizes that money to pay for the $800 and have the property for herself. One day, after Catherine has regained the house property, her older brother pays a visit to her. There, the brother explains that their mother has passed away and that she never contacted the rest of them because of their father. Not long after that event, Catherine pops into Chase once again. Chase begs Catherine to return to him, but Catherine won't. In the end, though, Chase tries to force the girl to be with him. Of course, Catherine won't sit still, so she ends up hitting Chase as hard as she can. Before leaving, Catherine says she will kill Chase if he dares get closer to her once again. Unfortunately for Catherine, a fisherman who was passing nearby heard the argument, and ended up testifying against Catherine years later. Back to Catherine in her early days, we find her returning home and finding out that Chase has destroyed her house in a feat of anger. Sadly, Catherine has no other choice but to leave the town, in order to protect herself. Eventually, the writer meets her publisher, and the two have dinner. Thanks to that, the publisher can appear on the jury and help Catherine prove her innocence. After all, Catherine was having dinner with the man by the time the assassination took place. Thanks to that, and to her lawyer, Catherine ends up declared not guilty, which shocks and moves Catherine deeply. After the case is dismissed, Tate pays a visit to the woman. The two hug each other and agree to continue dating. Time passes by and the two end up married. What's more, Catherine becomes a regular publisher. Both Catherine and Tate spend the rest of their lives together, living in the marshes. One night, though, an old Catherine is alone on the boat. All of a sudden, she glances at a woman-like figure approaching her. It doesn't take too much for her to recognize that figure, no one else but Catherine's mother. Catherine smiles at her presence. Later, Tate goes out to look for his wife. He ends up meeting Catherine on a boat. She has passed away. The sorrowful old man says goodbye to his lover and begins to check her writings. Eventually, Tate finds an unknown poem. He begins to read it and soon finds the strange metaphor of a victim defending itself from the predator. The following page shows Chase's drawing, and last but not least, Chase's necklace covered in blood. Needless to say, Tate realizes Catherine actually murdered Chase Andrews so as to defend herself. The lonely man takes the necklace, walks toward the shore, and throws the object into the mud, to keep her wife's innocence intact.